Bright Cutie. Every student matters.
Hello students, in this lesson we are going to learn about quadrilaterals. Clearly I want you to remember one thing. Quadrilateral is a type of a polygon. Okay, a quadrilateral is a type of a polygon. I hope you do remember what is a polygon. Polygon is a shape which is a closed shape made up entirely of line segments. Is that right? So we know that polygon is a shape which is made up entirely of line segments. Now, if we have got a shape which is made up only of four sides, we call it a quadrilateral. Now, why are we here learning especially about quadrilaterals is because generally the kind of questions that you will deal with in your questions, in your book, in your exams, you will notice that most of the shapes that are generally studied, they are all having four sides. For example, square, rectangle, rhombus, kite, trapezium, a parallelogram, etc. So all these very common shapes that you learn about, they are all having four sides. Therefore, we are going to study about these quadrilaterals separately and then we will continue with polygons. However, the word polygon is like a general name given to the shapes that have got poly sides. Poly means any number. So usually n sides, so we say n-gons. So n-gons can stand for any shape that has got several line segments. Okay, so now let's see how and where do we see these polygons in our usual life. So the first example is of a quadrilateral because here the swimming pool is shown to you which has got four sides. Now let's start with quadrilaterals. A polygon with four sides is called a quadrilateral. So look at these images. All these images that you see in front of you has got four sides. Is that right? Look at any of the image. Each one of them has got four sides. So what are the two things that are important for a shape to be a quadrilateral is that it needs to have four sides. Also, it needs to be a closed shape. This is also important that it needs to have four sides and it needs to be closed shape. Why closed shape? Because it is a polygon and I hope you remember that polygon is always formed of closed figure. The line segments which are being closed. So at least we need three sides to make a polygon. Here we are learning about four sides and we call it quadrilateral. The word quad here stands for four. Okay. Now we are going to study how we can classify these quadrilaterals. There are certain ways how we are going to classify them. We have got separate names for different types of figures that are formed using quadrilateral shapes. So starting with the first one, that is a rectangle. These are few that you are very much aware of. You see usually in your textbooks, you see these images. And here we are going to learn about some properties of them. This is very important. Okay. Starting with rectangle. Look at this image here. It is a rectangle which is shown in green. So here we are starting with the first point. It says it has two pairs of equal opposite sides. It has got two pairs of equal opposite sides. So look at the sides of this given shape of rectangle carefully. Do you notice that here, this side and this side, they both are equal to each other? Also, they are parallel to each other, right? Similarly, this particular line segment and this particular line segment, they are equal to each other. And also, if we extend no matter till where these two line segments, they will never meet each other. So we call them that the opposite sides are parallel as well. So something to remember here is the first point that all not all, but the opposite pairs they are equal and they are parallel to each other. Now comes to the third point. All the angles are right angles. So this is again very important point. All the angles that you see here, they are 90 degrees in measure. You can also say this, that the adjacent sides of a rectangle, they meet each other making 90 degrees angle, or we can say that the adjacent sides of a rectangle are perpendicular to each other. I hope this is clear. Now we are aware of the properties of a rectangle. Let's read about square. What is a square? A square is a four-sided figure where all the four sides are equal in length. This is very important to notice. All the four sides in a square are equal in length. Similar to rectangle, the opposite sides are parallel and they are equal, obviously, because the opposites all are equal, so opposite are also equal. So here square has got all the sides equal, opposite pairs are parallel to each other, and again similar to rectangle, we can clearly see that all these four angles, the interior angles, are right angles. Okay, now coming to the third one. Here it is given a parallelogram. What is a parallelogram? As the word says itself, the word parallel. So the property is the opposite pair of sides of a parallelogram, they are parallel and equal to each other. So this is the property you are going to remember about parallelogram. The opposite pair of the given parallelogram, they are parallel to each other and are equal as well. Now here it says that square and rectangles are also parallelograms. Why? Because you can clearly see that in square and in rectangle, both of them, the opposite pairs are equal and parallel. So we can also say that square and rectangle, they are special cases of parallelogram. I hope this is clear. Now moving ahead. Here, okay, we have already discussed about parallelogram. Coming to rhombus. What is a rhombus? Rhombus is a shape, if you can think about a square and if you squash it a bit, it's like if you press the square a bit, what image you see is a rhombus. Now why rhombus is special? Here rhombus, because it is made nothing else but out of a square, so it has got all of its four sides equal. Also you will see that the opposite sides are parallel to each other. Okay, the opposite angles are equal. Now this is important to notice, because here earlier the square has got all the four angles 90 degree each. Now because we have made it a squashed square, it is a rhombus, so here we have only the opposite angle equal to each other. Do you notice that here clearly we see that this particular angle looks like obtuse angle? So this particular obtuse angle pair, it is equal to each other, and if you notice this one here, these two acute angle pairs, they are equal to each other. So one thing that we are going to remember very clearly from rhombus is that its opposite angles are equal. Now what next comes is even more important. Look at this very carefully. Diagonals intersect each other at the center and at 90 degree. In order to show you this, let me just use good lines here. Okay, so this is one of the line. Okay, so here we have got two diagonals. I hope you do remember how we make the diagonals. If we join the point with a particular vertex to the vertex sitting next to its adjacent vertex, it is called a diagonal. So here these are the two diagonals. So one very important property in a rhombus is that the diagonals, they intersect each other making a 90 degree angle. So this is very important. Diagonals of a rhombus intersect at 90 degree. Now coming to the last one, that is trapezium. Trapezium here, it's a very simple shape. Just one thing to remember, that one pair of opposite sides are parallel. Just one thing to remember from trapezium, it is the pair of opposite side, just one opposite side, one pair of opposite side is parallel. They are not equal and nothing to do with the other side, nothing to do with the angles in this shape. Okay, I hope we are good to go with these or with all these 5 types of quadrilaterals that we are learned?